There has been much focus on the recent Amazon Lord of the Rings series, dubbed, rather dully, The Rings of Power. Of course, its name is an attempt to hark back to Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, but the series appears more a reflection of the ongoing death that modern cinema is experiencing across the West. In this video, I hope to give a brief summary as to why. You can see no better evidence of the West's spiralling decline when looking at the spectacularly poor state of modern cinema. The remaining scraps of artistic creativity, be it with progressive or reactionary undertones, are seldom found in the frequent rehashes of old superheroes, cartoon characters and action movies. If you were to take a look at the highest grossing films so far this year, almost all are bland rehashes of decade-old franchises that seek to leech off of its original success. Those films that comprise our current film and TV industry range from Jurassic Park, Toy Story, numerous Marvel films, and Tolkien's Middle-earth, each of which is originals precede the 21st century. Even Top Gun Maverick, though largely free of progressive politics, remains a symptom of Western decline. Riding off of the back of the original Top Gun, the tremendous box office hit hardly points to a still thriving TV and film industry, but instead confirms the view that Hollywood's success is predicated both on the release of sequels and the use of aged action heroes. And then we come to the topic at hand, the Rings of Power. Tolkien fans, even before the release of its frankly embarrassing teaser trailers, felt unnerved by the prospect of a multinational corporation weaseling their way into getting the rights to produce a series on the Second Age, an opportunity only possible following the death of Christopher Tolkien in January 2020. For those who enjoyed the film trilogy and books, this was no better signal as to what was to come. Amazon's release of their first teaser back in February was a confirmation of what many had anticipated from this upcoming series. While visually impressive, fans could not help but notice characters not entirely in keeping with the Middle-earth lore. Black elves, token hobbits, Mary Sues and beardless dwarves. Far from reassuring fans, the teaser saw a massive backlash, best seen in both the thousands who posted the now famous Tolkien quote in its comments sections, and the humiliating like-to-dislike ratios the trailers received. It didn't take long, however, for this to become explicit, for shortly following its teaser trailer, they released a panel, supposedly made up of Tolkien fans, who gave their own, likely scripted, reactions to its first teaser trailer. Aside from the inauthentic expressions of their own excitement for its release, conversations geared entirely around the empty platitudes of diversity and inclusion. Unsurprisingly, the video was soon taken down by Amazon. If any admirer of Tolkien's works despaired at the state of this series, their disappointment would take a further plummet in the following months. Amidst the usual insulting of fans that dared express disapproval at the deliberate destruction of their own franchises, the writers, rather than seriously bringing to life the worlds they were meant to depict, made sure instead to show off their own progressive credentials. And here we are now, with the final trailer released on August the 23rd, and the first episodes to be released shortly. What hope is there for any who hold any genuine appreciation for the great books they grew up reading? Many from the moment Amazon bought these rights knew how little faith they had in them living up to Jackson's trilogy. Modern cinema is after all dead, or at least decomposing. There exists no art, no creativity, no imagination, no originality. So should we be surprised that Tolkien's world will be yet another victim of the progressive destruction of Western culture and art? Why then, if we ended up in such a state in our film and TV industry? Well, the short answer would be it is one of the symptoms of the West's cultural, religious and societal decline. But that is an incomplete answer to the more curious mind. Certainly, it is only in fairly recent times that Hollywood has suffered its final blow. Our current Western elites, once able to create entertainment that could be met with approval by the common mass, now seem hardly capable of even creating their own propaganda. Even a decade ago you could find films and series that had both a degree of originality and good writing. For those that had progressive politics inserted into them, the messages tended to be more subliminal, and were therefore not met with the backlash our current entertainment industry is receiving. Today, however, films and TV are explicitly political. Writing has become stale and unimaginative, and audiences have failed to turn out to cinemas as a result. Before this essay shares too much in common with our 2016 predecessors, the likes of people who now dominate talk radio and GB news, It should be mentioned this is not to disparage the insertion of any and-all ideology into our entertainment. While much of these critiques I've made of the current state of Hollywood may find common ground with the anti-woke crowd, it forgets that art is inseparably tied to our value systems. Whether implicit or explicit, it is art that justifies and maintains regime control, but so too is it art that can lay the groundwork for a movement to overthrow it. The Rings of Power, like so many other modern failures, is a mockery of its original's works. Neither should we forget, however, that Tolkien's books and Peter Jackson's adaptation still, and will, always remain. We should not allow a version more suited to regime propaganda to besmirch what fond memories we hold for the originals. Modernity has afforded Western populations with unprecedented levels of consumption. Though perhaps not materially better off than our forefathers, we are given the opportunity to shield ourselves from every struggle, from every hardship, and from every misfortune they endured. Art requires experience of the real world, and modernity has failed to offer any resemblance of it. The common mass have been made cogs in an ever-grinding machine, satiated both by the bread of cheap, hyper-processed junk food delivered at our door and the circuses of TikTok, Marvel films, and Star Wars sequels. As slaves to the devices designed supposedly to better us, is it any wonder that neither any art or culture can originate from such a circumstance? Progressive politics, that have so infected Western elites, are a poison that seek to sap the life and soul of the decent and good. The entertainment they produce, though once meeting the approval of its audiences, are a perversion of the decent works others have already created. But this is no point from which we fall into despair, nor one where we lament the state of our modern world. Art endures, and the impermanence of our current regime can be seen in no better place than the art it creates. Neither, however, is this a time of inaction or of complacency, assured in the belief of the regime's eventual collapse. If we are to outlast or supplant our current ruling class, a culture, separate to modernities, must form from a movement willing to study and learn from the Western canon that built our civilization. Art must be created that can extol virtue and encapsulate the values we seek to embody. Art that is not a rehash of some pre-made work, or an empty political mouthpiece made in the service of another, but art that is timeless, which may be embraced in a culture not as diseased as the one we inhabit. Although this regime is prolonged in its rule by technological advancements, ones which have offered it unprecedented means of control, its sickness remains, and soon enough the beast will take its final breath. The shadow that bred them can only mock, cannot make, not real things of its own. I don't think it gave life to the orcs, it only ruined them and twisted them, and if they are to live at all, they have to live like other living creatures. Foul waters and foul meats they'll take, if they can get no better, but not poison. They have fed me, and so I'm better off than you. There must be food and water somewhere in this place.